Got the starting part, but we are breaking down the question based on what's the most popular topic that they are asking. Okay, Vismi, quick, answer the question. Difference between 2014 and 2019. What's the difference in focus? Besides importance versus effectiveness, which are just ambiguous terms anyway.
Like for 2014 is like which one saves more lives. For 2019 is like which responses should be prioritized.
Okay, so good, thank you. The link here is about saving lives as opposed to 2019 where the link is just about which one should be prioritized. It could be because you want to talk about saving lives. You're not wrong, but it could also be about reducing physical damage. Right? So one or the other, both can, but when it comes to 2014, it's only about saving lives. This is the one that you need to have all your arguments argue towards. So if say for example, you do the 2014 one, then you talk about how this long-term response, for example, Han Cheng, can you remind me what are the two long-term response for earthquake? That is healthcare can, thank you, provision of healthcare. The other one is? Anybody can remember? Development of infrastructure. You change the next to you. So development of infrastructure and the provision of healthcare. That's basically the mental wellness one, the mental healthcare for people who are traumatized. Okay? So if you are talking about the two of them, which one is the relevant one to talk about in this factor? In this essay? Infrastructure in saving lives. It should be the healthcare one. Long-term healthcare, making sure that they can continue to survive, reduce rate of suicide and stuff like that. If you talk about infrastructure in the sense of you want to, this is response to earthquake, not preparedness for future earthquake. So that's why the way you argue has to also be nuanced towards the question. Okay? So again, we will touch more on that a bit later. But at least for now, you can see what are the common topics. Let's move on to the next few years. Any questions on this? No? Yu Chen, moving on. 2020, first question. What's the topic here? Gateway 1, Gateway 2, specifically which part of Gateway 1 or Gateway 2? Gateway 2. Outcomes of? Outcomes of what? The green movement. Production, productivity. Okay, once again, this focus is on productivity. But you can see here what he's trying to say is about the outcomes. Because productivity, remember productivity factors, there's the E plus, there's also the E minus. The waterlogging, the soil, the eutrophication, the thing that we did, for those of you who didn't have oral or listening compre that time, they read it online. Then it became a reference material for everybody else to read through. That's the one. So this one is productivity, specifically just the E minuses. Okay? Shivesh, thank you for answering just now. Yi Xian. Wait, no, that's not right. Xin Yu. Yi Xian, sorry. Xin Yu, can you give me 2020, the second question? What topic? Monitoring system that falls within which basket? Which category? Which topic? Gateway 2 or Gateway 3? Gateway 3. Okay, this one is under just now. We were talking about preparedness measure. Okay, again, nothing new. They're asking similar topics as what we shared earlier. 2021, following an earthquake, most important, Lisa. Gateway 3? Gateway 3? Yeah, correct. Specifically, which part? Short-term, long-term response. Okay, next one. To avoid food shortage, food production needs to be increased. Vashini. Gateway 2. What topic? Which part? No, this is causes of food shortage. They want to know what are the causes of food shortage that they need to remedy. Get it? Food production needs to be increased because of this cause of food shortage. Okay, it may also well be, if you bring in productivity factors, will not be completely irrelevant, but you must know what's your other factor going to be about. Okay, let's move on. Madhu, what do you think? 2022. Gateway 2. Which one? Types of volcano. Risk associated. Okay, so impact of volcano. Okay, last one, Inshira. This one straightforward lah, give it to.
The past 3 years all thing.
Food shortage. Yeah? Sorry? Past 3 years all give it to? No lah, this 2021 and 2022.
Yeah, past 3 is very common.
For food, yeah. They like to ask more from gateway 2.
For the past 10 years, it's only 2 that you get.
Yes. So more common than not, they like to ask gateway 2 related stuff. But specifically, you realize they're not asking you about food consumption per the total food consumption daily calorie intake. They're not asking that as an essay question. Okay. Productivity factors they may, but remember this new thing that they have been they started asking. Haven't been asking in a while since the very start. The E minus of it. Okay. So as you revise, if you take a look at this and you go, got E minus meh? So don't forget, the lesson did go on. Because I also didn't know how many people were absent that day because of the listening. I think it was a minority lah. But still, the materials are all there for you to refer to. Please make sure you revise. Textbook also is all the information is there. Are we okay with this so far? Okay. Second thing, and the reason why I asked for full scale paper, actually I'm going to need each person to have 2 or 3. But either ways, we go into this first. Let's start with this essay question. Okay, we have already interpreted just now. Here, given factor, earthquake response to earthquakes, short-term response to earthquakes are more effective in saving lives than long-term responses. So OF. Okay, for this question, 2014 question 5E, forgot, flip. Okay. For this question, GF, OF already given to you. You don't need to come up with one of your own. The link to this question is effective in saving life. That means every single one of your argument must be relevant to saving lives. Okay. Short-term responses, how many do you already know, right? Long-term response just now. We talked about it just now. Long-term responses, we have 2. Infrastructure and provision of healthcare. Okay. Hopefully you don't forget this already. Bertin, how many arguments should you have per factor paragraph? 3? Can? Minimum 2? Can give me 3? Please don't give me any more than 3. Otherwise that's overkill already. You're wasting time already. Okay? So minimum you need to have 2 arguments up to 3 for provision of healthcare, and if infrastructure is something that you cannot talk about, or rather not advisable, very hard lah, not say impossible, but a bit hard. Okay, so provision of healthcare, you need to be able to address at least 2 different measures. For example, things such as long-term health, okay, things such as mental health, okay, the trauma and all that stuff. So if I were to ask you, long-term doesn't directly seem to be talking about saving lives. How in the world do we consider mental health as leading to saving lives? Prevent suicides. Okay, so you need to have terms such as suicide in your brain. Not to say that it's something to look forward to, but more of so you know what to argue towards. You need to know things such as PTSD. You need to know things such as what's that? Survivor's guilt. You heard the expression before? The one where no, some yes, some no.
Mental health is a long-term response.
Mental health is a long-term response. Cannot be short-term. Why got such thing? You straight away come up. Are you okay? Hey, your legs are gone. How do you feel? That's not the time.
No. But like mental health. So there's like provision of healthcare.
Yes, that's under provision of healthcare, including the long-term care like physiotherapy and all that stuff. Okay? Okay, so what kind of hazards do you envision that may cause long-term possibility for death that you need long-term healthcare for? The therapy and all that stuff.
Healthy includes both mental health and physical health.
Long-term one, yes. Short-term one, no. Short-term is just physical only. Make sure you're alive, happy. Make sure you got food to eat, you don't die, happy. Give you medicine, happy.
Then how come like long-term can have physical, like in what way does it help?
Physiotherapy. People who are on long-term care because your now I'm giving away answer, like your organs get ruptured. People who are in need of, I don't know, they breathe in too much of the dust and the ash from the debris and they have some issues with their lungs. These kind of things will still eventually lead to death. Hence, about saving lives. Okay, so then I don't need to ask the question already because I already give it away. Okay, things such as inhalation, things such as organs, something, whatever lah. As long as you're able to argue, don't need a lot you only need one argument. The argument just has to be relevant to saving lives. So please don't say, oh yeah, one of the possibility for long-term healthcare is the provision of physiotherapy so that people who are injured can continue to walk and learn how to walk again. How does that help to save lives? Okay? Unless you can argue, this means that then they can have more meaningful lives as they are then better able to return back to society as a normally functioning person. Maybe can. That is a stretch, but that is still at least better than nothing. Don't just say, they can walk, therefore we have saved his life. He's actually not dead, okay? Unless you can say talking about his quality of life. Yeah?
Sure, but
Yes.
improving quality of life doesn't mean you save the life though.
Yeah? That's why I say it's a stretch. But at least you're trying, as opposed to just saying, he can walk, therefore life saved. Yeah? Short-term response, don't need to say. Every single argument has to do with saving lives. If you are finding difficulty to talk to save lives, right, something is wrong with how you revise, right? You cannot go, oh, we rescued you, therefore this will help your economy. What? What? It's about saving lives. Okay? So, then we go into writing the factor paragraph. Remember writing the factor paragraph? We're looking out for Q. In specifically, E and the L, which I talk about as arguments. Okay, this one is a recap. Nothing new here. If you don't want to write any of this down, by all means, please don't. You should know this by now. Okay? E and an L together makes up an argument. Why separate E and the L? E is an elaboration of the actions that is taken. Okay, whatever actions that is taken. If say for example, cause of climate change. Which is the worst cause of climate change? You need to tell me, like the what? Deforestation involves the cutting down of trees at a large scale for Then after that, you link to climate change. Therefore, the soil oxidation process, less trees to photosynthesize and remove, which results in it trapping more heat, therefore climate change. Right? So the outcome is to link back to the question. So that is link. Please make sure, I'm just a reminder, please make sure your link is not those kind of silly one-word sentence. Therefore, this is sustainable, full stop. That's not link. I don't know whether SS or history teach in that manner. I heard lah. So my previous school SS teach like that. Okay? Please don't think of it as that's the link. Okay? Link is an opportunity for you to demonstrate your conceptual understanding. So after you talk about greenhouse gas and how the cow fart come out methane, then you must bring up to the fact that the methane is a potent greenhouse gas 20 times more effective than carbon dioxide at trapping heat, resulting in heat being retained within the atmosphere, causing climate change. Okay? Again, it's a chance for you to flex your conceptual knowledge, not factual recall. Factual recall is all about the elaboration. Yes, Nisa. Oh yes. Oh, I knew you messaged me about something. Can go. All the best. Make sure you win.
I'll watch the recorded.
Okay. Okay. Make sure you win. Win the spot. Yeah. Anyway, so that's that. Example. Again, you need to have the relevant fact or figure to support it. Example should always have a name of a place, and this is something I hear from the horse's mouth themselves. MOE is sharing with us when it comes to example. Okay, they require either a name of a place or the year. So if you're talking about a particular event, for example, the 2011 tsunami that affected Japan and destroyed the power plant, causing what? Loss, disruption of services and blah 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 blah. They're looking for the year as well. Okay, so I'm telling you something that they just shared with us recently, which generally we can just say Japan got a lot of earthquake, but we want to talk about the power plant, they're looking for the year that it happened. Okay? So, long-term, short-term response, talking about saving lives, how to explain it. We already did the interpretation just now. Let's take a look at this sample paragraph. I'll give you a minute for you to quickly read through. You can quickly read through. That means my head is too big. That's a good sign. Like when Bertin asks, if you need to go, go lah. I never say no, right? If you find urgent need to go, go lah. Anyway, I'm going to release you in 17 minutes. But thank you for asking. Yes. Yeah, I never said cannot. I was asking you, was it urgent? Yeah. No, I said if it was urgent. One at a time, now one go already. Yes. Bertin, one go already, now wait your turn. One at a time. I'm still one teacher. In theory, I still have just the one pass to give out, even though I never give out the pass. Yes.
For example, right, if you give like a year and a place, you still give a fact.
Yes. Yes. You cannot just say, for example, severity of the disruption of communication and infrastructure and whatnot, that the services being destroyed. For example, Japan in 2011, full stop. Still not helpful. Okay? Okay, so let's take a look here. Ready? Yeah. Once again, first starting sentence, topic sentence. Easy. It's about answering the question. Quick description of what the factor is to demonstrate to your examiners that you know what it is. Please keep in mind, topic sentence, a lot of people like to think, oh, it's just about rephrasing the question by writing the one word that's relevant to the question. The factor that you want to talk about. You know, it's like, no. Oh, this is most effective in saving life. Just that. Then after that, go the this. There, I got right. That's my P. It's not like a topic sentence just for the sake of writing that word there. Yeah, you have to at least unpack it a little bit to demonstrate to the examiners that you know what you're going to talk about. Okay? And one more advice I'm giving you is that I've already mentioned before. Your starting words, please don't bother with any fluff. Like writing about, oh, there are a wide variety of actions that can be taken once an earthquake happens. An earthquake is generally devastating and people will suffer here and there. One of the things that you can do is a short-term response. Don't bother. Okay, there's no additional mark for fluff. So you just start off straight away by telling your examiner, this paragraph, I'll be talking about this factor. First few words, already write down already. Okay? Okay? Cool. Next one, talking about an argument, an elaboration, and a link. One such approach is the rescue of survivors, where the country's rescue services is deployed to search and rescue for the survivors. Okay? This training helps in effectiveness in saving life as they may be prepared with different scenarios. Following a rescue, the emergency shelter, avoid dehydration and prevent catching diseases. Again, the underlying portion is my link. To link up back to saving lives. Being able to know the different scenario to help to save the life. Being able to prevent dehydration to prevent catching the diseases. Okay, so again here, total so far, 2 arguments. But I didn't stop there. In theory, I actually gave more than one. I gave more than just the positive side. I also gave the negative side of it. Given the 72-hour short amount of time, survivors who are not rescued. Okay, so total I gave, in this case, 3 arguments. 2 positive, 1 negative. Does it have to be this way? Can you give me 1 positive, 1 negative? Yes, you can. Can you just give me 2 positives? A bit iffy because they're talking about how effective they are. Okay, effectiveness usually is the opportunity, not opportunity, it's the one where they give you the hint, you must give me an E-. But you can go. Okay, can. Okay, so those are the 3 arguments that I provided. Then, the example here, especially when the scale of the earthquake is as large as the 2 towns hit by the Tohoku, Japan 2011 earthquake. Again, this is the name, plus the year. The relevant fact is the 2 towns hit. Not just 1 town, 2 towns hit. Then, and can I please have you take a look at how the example is being used in a sentence? Keep in mind, this is the entire sentence. Okay? I know a lot of you are doing this where you full stop finish already, right? For example, okay? I'm fine with it. Technically, there's nothing wrong with it. But the sequence may not gel well. Okay? And it's actually a comment that Cambridge examiners have written before in their report to us. To say that people who write those, for example, this one, right? It doesn't make sense in the flow of the paragraph. Because it's the kind, you give E+, and then you give E-, and then you give an example for the E+. Because you're used to example being put at the bottom. For example, then I just spam one example for you, right? Then it becomes not as relevant. So in this case, this example is relevant to my E-, it makes sense together. Sequence-wise, I also don't bother to write the word for example. It's just collectively, this is also my L in my E-. Can see? Wait again, That means, if say you want to give an example of the E+, can you? Sure. Put it within your E+ portion of the paragraph. If say for example, you want to talk about the emergency shelter, the Turkey provide how many thousand camps and blah 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 blah. Use that here. Don't wait until the very end. Okay? Alternatively, and something that is actually something that is, how do I say, practical advice. You want to save time. You start with the example. If you're going to give E+ an example, right, you start with the example. And then use the example for your argument. Okay? One of the actions could be about the provision of emergency shelter, where Turkey provided how many thousand tents after this 2010 Istanbul earthquake or something like that. This helps the survivors survive by providing shelter, therefore they're protected from the elements and they don't get diseases and blah blah blah. The example is the E. I just add in the link to saving lives. Possible. Save you time in what you're supposed to write also. Okay? Everybody okay with what I'm trying to say? Okay. Your example could be the E, could be the L. Yes, Wei Hong. Oh, okay, yeah. Okay. The question that I've ever had before from your seniors. Then can I give an example of the P? No. Because that's not an example of the effectiveness. That's the example of just what is a short-term response. For example, Singapore has SCDF, full stop. I know lah, Singapore is the name of a place. SCDF is the name of the organisation for rescue people. But that's got nothing to do with the arguments itself. Okay? So that's that when it comes to arguing. Okay, second part that I want to highlight to you. Again, nothing new here. This, I hope nobody here thinks anything new. I'm just supplementing you with new advice now that you are mature and know how to write better. Okay? Next part is about the evaluation. A lot of you always keep asking how to evaluate and you tend to get stuck with the same two ones. Time and scale. Right? Nothing wrong with those. If it's relevant, by all means, power to you, please use them. But I'm sharing with you that there are a range of things that you can actually use. Okay? If you need to write this down, by all means write this down. Last page of your attendance series got some space, right? Record down all these different varieties of criteria that you can use. Okay, we start with the basics, the one that you are most familiar with. Scale. The area or the extent of the influence. Is it large scale or small scale? Okay. But I want you to keep in mind, it's not always the larger is always better. Okay. Depends on the question. Larger scale could also be a problem. Okay, just remind that lah. I mean, this is the easy one. Okay, next one, the one that's next easiest is time. Time, majority of you like to think within this term, long term or short term. And people like to think of it, oh, long term therefore is better, short term therefore is worse. I want to give you the flip perspective. Can pause first? I know you're copying this now. I'll give you a minute for you to copy the time one shortly after this. Okay, I want to give the flip perspective. There are also instances where short term is better than long term. For example, immediate benefit versus delayed. For example, benefit of living near earthquake, volcanic eruption versus what else? Tourism. Okay. Tourism can continue the moment the earthquake has already the volcano finished erupting, or even during the volcano erupting, because people want to see. But agriculture is long-term benefit, which is a problem for people who are living nearby, because it takes thousands of years for the rocks to weather into fertile soil. It's not straight away. So people living near the volcano actually will suffer from living near there if they are farmers. Yeah? So long term doesn't necessarily always mean better. Okay, I'll pause here so you can write down. Long term not always better. Some long term benefits, of course, they are good. But not all. The example that I just gave just now. Okay? And the last thing when it comes to thinking about time, again, long term versus short term, immediate versus delayed. The third one is talking about temporary or permanent. Okay, there are three ways that you can incorporate use of time for your evaluation. It's not just a fixed matter of long term versus short term. Okay, example of this. Which impact of climate change is worse? Sea level rise or catching diseases? Oh, I also don't know how to give. What's an example that can showcase temporary versus permanent? I can't think of one offhand. If I can, later I'll share with you, okay? But yeah, temporary versus permanent. I've ever seen before a student use that. Can't remember what question. Yeah, can be done. Okay. Next one that I want to focus on is this. Place. Specific factors. For example, the question is talking about in the context of a less developed country. You can bring up things such as cost. Such as how easy to implement. Okay, things such as enforcement. Oh wait, that's about the same as how easy to implement. Okay. If say for example the question is asking you which of the short-term, long-term responses is relevant, is helpful in the context of a tsunami hitting a less developed country. Okay, tsunami monitoring and warning system is not going to help you because they're not going to be able to afford that. So you need to choose what the relevant argument is. If say for example they use that as the given factor, then you can say, oh, because the country is not developed, therefore they may not have the expertise or the ability to financially fund and continue to support the use of expensive technology such as that.
That's if like they specifically.
If they specifically, they will specify lah. Yeah, there are contexts where they have done that before. Okay, yes.
Can we talk about DC versus LDC?
Yes, you can. Okay. Say for example, we're talking about Yeah, so okay, maybe I just give the same one. Tsunami monitoring and warning system is the best approach to prevent. Why are you using your phone here? You know I have to take that, right? Yeah, still, I know. You see, silly, right? Productive stuff. You could have waited till the end and asked me, right? And this is recorded, bro. What was I saying? Oh yeah. Tsunami monitoring system. Then you say, is that the most effective way to reduce monitoring technology, best way to reduce impacts of natural hazards. Example, now I can say, one is emergency drill, the other one is technology. Then I write down my final conclusion. Therefore, emergency drill is the most effective way because it is something that does not involve high cost, which can be implemented everywhere in the world. On the other hand, monitoring systems such as earthquake or tsunami requires more developed countries to be able to invest money. Hence, it's not something that can protect people in the world. So I can use that as an argument as well. Okay, but then that effectively is scale lah. Right? Effectively that's scale lah.
So is that like two criteria at the same time?
In a way, but again, you don't actually have to necessarily write down and say that I'm using scale. Therefore, you can see that then sekali, this one is not really scale. Then after you go, oh shit, I lost mark. Don't have don't worry. Yeah. Okay. Next one is the idea of space. The idea that this kind of phenomenon occurs everywhere that has exactly the same kind of physical environment. Last one is sustainability. Second last one, sustainability. Is there any additional benefit or additional harm? Okay, in the long run, unfortunately, in the long run, I find that's very overlapping with time lah. But yeah, okay. Then the last portion that I want to focus on is this idea of interconnection. Okay, that the factor can actually affect the other person. For example, deforestation versus agriculture, which is the worst cause of climate change. Agriculture causes the need for deforestation. Therefore, agriculture is worse. Right? They are interconnected. There's no comparison of scale. It's the fact that agriculture requires deforestation. Therefore, agriculture has got double the impact. Yeah, you don't have to write the literal word interconnection, but you could use that as a concept to link them. Yes.
So that can be the evaluation.
That can be the evaluation. Okay, I've also seen a cheat code way out. They're talking about, this one is, I'm not recommending, but I've seen that they actually accept this for national exams. NGO is best able to manage impacts of tourism. Then the OF, they talk about government. And then the final conclusion factor is they both need to work hand in hand to support each other. Because NGO can cover these domains while government can cover these domains. I find that a very weak kind of evaluation, but they've accepted that before. I don't know whether you can get up to 8 marks. But if you're really pushing and you cannot think of anything else, just think, you can always combine them together. Like maybe they ask you which one is more important, short term or long term. Then you say, both are important. I find that's a cop-out. But yeah, they have been known to accept it in the past. Okay? Are we okay with this? Again, simple planning, simple... May I move on? Okay. Anyway, this is recorded, so you can see it a bit later also. Okay. For now, because this is going to continue on until tomorrow's lesson, where tomorrow we'll be doing this. My plan is to also bring in weather and tourism essay. So that then we can see a general pattern for that as well. And to apply, see how science has been used for that. Weather one is even more complicated. Weather and tourism one. But, okay, I want you to take a look at this question. For the remaining 2 minutes or so, can I have you interpret this question together with your friend? This is from prelim, nothing inside the paper one. You cannot find him. You can write down the last page. Oh, forgot. I want to share with you the format that I want to use to interpret this one. Just write down. Can? Basically, I want you to interpret the question, identify, circle, highlight, whatever it is. What is the GF? What's the OF? And the question, what's the link? Then, I want you to think about arguments. For the GF, give me at least 2. You can annotate just by branching it out. What are the 2 arguments you want to use? Then, and then for the OF, what are the 2 arguments you want to use? You can just state. You don't need to describe or anything. Just state it.
And GF is OF is natural disaster. Link is skill.
Good question. Yeah. But the question is not talking about food security, it's food supply. The supply is still there. Get it? Food security, the food is there, I cannot afford to eat. But it's not supply. The supply is there. Supply is the physical thing that is there. Just that I cannot afford it, I cannot access it. These are food security issues, not food supply issues. Devastate means E minus only. Ah. Okay, if you are already done, because just now we already talked about evaluation, right? Can you also decide which one do you think is going to win, what criteria you want to evaluate it by? Yeah, right? Which one is more devastating? Which one will win the essay? Jasmine, can? Question easy? The GFOF easy, right? It's just to make sure you find relevant arguments that lead to devastation of food supply. Hey, once you discuss interpreted, you can show me that it's done. Okay, go over it. So I have tomorrow we continue. Show you that we are done. Today, do I give you any homework over the weekend? Yes, right. It's in my locker. Other than that, no more. Yesterday I gave you. They're supposed to write it down and interpret. Branch out, circle, highlight. Yes. Okay, let's say intend. Let's say intend. Sure. Yeah, I off.